Madison Miner with Say What Podcast, and I have the great pleasure and honor of having a good friend of mine, Sonja Shaw, who is here today to answer some questions and just spread news about what she's doing here in California and in her local school district. So Sonja, welcome to our show.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. It's all my pleasure.
Absolutely. So just a couple questions for you today. I wanted to talk about what first brought you onto the school board for Chino Valley Unified School District and what education in California looks like for you.
Awesome. So back, I want to say maybe a handful of years, just like yourself, Madison, we were just moms volunteering in the classroom, involved with our children's education. I was a room mom. I was an art mom. I was also the PE mom since I was a personal trainer for many, many years. I was any mom that was needed in the classroom. And when the world shut down is when I kind of got a behind the scene look, and I got a crash course into politics really quick because we didn't like all the things that were going on with our children being on online learning. Fortunate enough, I was able to put my kids in a charter school that was open, all while most kids were behind a computer screen, and parents had an eye on exactly what was happening in some of the classrooms. That's not to say that, we don't have great teachers. We absolutely do have great teachers, but we do have here in California union activists pushing a lot of ideologies in the classroom, and that wasn't right. When, parents were wanting the kids to go back into in person because the whole world was going back to normal. People were in vacation. Our governor was at football games and everything other. We got loud. We found out what a school board was. We started attending meetings. We quickly found out, just like most of parents, that the school board did not promote real education. And that's when we said enough is enough. So we ended up running. 2 seats were available, and we switched a majority from a 2-3 to a 4-1. And then this last election, we now in Chino have a 5-0 when it comes to actual real education, parental rights, and ensuring fairness in our girls' sports.
I love that. I think of my own kids when you were talking about your kids being in a school that you felt was safe for them. Why run? Why run when your kids were safe, we're protected, we're in a place where you knew what they were being educated with, and why did you run?
As a mother, I couldn't just sit there and watch, knowing there was other kids just like myself. When I was a child and my siblings, my mom passed away when I was very young. My dad came from another country. He was doing the best he can with what he had. But I also know there's all those other kids that don't have that same opportunity. There's all the other kids that have 2 working parents that they're not able to be as involved as they would like to be. So when I saw that, in no good conscience was I able to walk away from trying to do what I can do to protect all kids. And that's why I said, you know what, my kids are going to be safe. They're blessed to have, a mother and father there that are doing their best to provide the best outcomes for them. But at the same token, I just knew, I saw the stories. I saw the mothers and fathers crying, the grandma and grandpas, and I couldn't walk away from that, Madison. I had to step in and say, okay, what can we do to fix this problem here in California?
Yeah, I love that. So I know in Chino Valley, I haven't been yet in person, but I do watch your board meetings online, and thankful that there's an opportunity for that. I know that there's been some controversies and there's been some threats in Chino Valley, specifically against you, but against the school board in general. How have you navigated through that, and what does that look like on a daily basis for your family and your husband and you?
Absolutely. So when we first passed the parental notification policy a couple years ago, that was a huge one. The death threats started to roll in. Now, being a mother, being involved in this, there was a lot of firsts. So when I first got the first one, I'm not going to lie, it was terrifying. I'm a mother trying to protect children, and then my own children are now in danger with specific verbiage that was threatening their lives. And that hurt. But at the same token, we were able to come together as a family. Luckily, we have, we're covered by the blood of Jesus. We believe in the Lord. So we definitely believe that if he's going to take us to it, he's going to take us through it. And as a family, we pray together. We put safety measures in place. I have 2 bold and very courageous, God-fearing children, daughters, young ladies that they never once blinked. It was never like, Mom, don't do this. It was like, Mom, keep going, right? When they couldn't attend board meetings because they're in soccer fields, they were watching board meetings and rooting me on when they could, when they got home. And it's a beautiful thing. But at the same token, those death threats just made me more resolute in standing firm in what we believe in. Because if those people want my life just for protecting children and wanting a real education being, the opportunities being there for our kids, then I know that I would be a coward to walk away from that, Madison. So when we pass those kinds of things and those things continue to come in, we definitely take them serious. We have a great police department that does everything they can. There has been an arrest made on one of them. But these criminals, I believe they're criminals. They are smart. They know how to work the system. And unfortunately, in California, lawlessness rules with Newsom and his cronies. So we're still fighting the good fight. But in no way in the world would I be able to walk away from that. And it just, again, it just brings me to where we're at today. They want to double down. Fine, we'll triple down.
And on that same note, I know that being on the school board has been difficult and controversial. And as if that wasn't enough, we all hear of a certain announcement that came out quite recently. Do you want to talk about your new run for Superintendent of Public Education here in California?
Absolutely. I'm excited to run for the State Superintendent of Education. We've all kind of seen the news clip when Tony Thurmond tried to come and bully our own district. We've seen him bully other districts. Look, the radicals have had this seat for many, many decades. Our kids can't even read and write and do math. That is a problem, all while they're making laws to push ideologies into the classroom. That is another great problem, right? And that's where I'm excited to bring what we're doing there in Chino. My heart hurts when I have board members that are in a minority right now throughout California. I have parents reaching out to me constantly. How can we get what you're doing there in Chino all over California? So with a lot of prayer and encouragement, that's when I decided, you know what, this is the way that we can do it. Why keep handing our kids over on a silver platter? And I decided with my husband and me praying alongside our kids that it's the time. The time is now. We can't just sit here and cower away from these positions. We have to hit them head on. Like, yes, is it going to be a challenge? Is it an uphill battle? 100%. We have the unions that greatly fund these positions. But right now, more than ever, we see parents and community members rising up for these positions, and I'm grateful to stand alongside them, Madison.
That's wonderful. I look forward to supporting you in that. What do you find to be the most urgent and pressing issues that you want to focus on when you win your seat for Superintendent of Education, Public Education?
That is such a loaded question because there's so many things, but let's focus on the transparency first. Like, we see how the legislators, we see how this current person in this position, we see how Newsom, they all got behind a law recently that takes away parental rights, right? That we have a constitutional right in the upbringing of our own children. Number one, what policy we currently have, even after going through being sued by the state, we in Chino still notify parents. That's important. When a parent trusts the school system and they drop their child off at the school gates, they're not saying, please keep secrets from me. They're trusting that there's transparency. With that said, I want to take the policy that we currently have in Chino and make it a California statewide. We need to be able to notify parents. With that said comes disarming the union right now with pushing ideologies in the classroom. Look, if what they were doing was correct, our kids will be able to read, write, and do math. The fact is they've been pushing ideologies into the classroom, and that needs to stop. We need to give all the tools throughout the district, especially our new teachers coming into the field, the opportunity to be able to actually do what's right, right? Like, I will be honest, a lot of student teachers that even my own children have right now into classrooms, they're pushing things because that's the way that they're taught. But in Chino, we have a system that's working. We have the blueprint that's working. And to me, I would feel so sad and discouraged if I don't try to take that statewide. Madison, in a time where they're legislating to push ideologically beliefs into the classroom, our district, regardless of what the law is, we're still increasing in our test scores. We're still increasing enrollment in a time where that's decades have been decreased, right? But we're building the trust back in our community. And I really, really think if we take that statewide, we can be the leaders. We all know whatever happens in California, there goes the nation, right? So let's show the nation that we're sending them good things finally, and not a warning sign of what's to come bad in their states.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I think Chino Valley has done such an amazing job. You in your run as president for 2 terms now, and the rest of the school board, you guys have done such a good job championing parent rights and parental involvement. Statewide, I see that as being such a task because I know it's a massive state that, like you said, there's been a lot of policies and bills that have passed up in Sacramento. What are some of the specifics when it comes to the policies and the bills up in Sacramento that you would love to change or amend, make them something that is more tailored towards your beliefs and what you want to do up in Sacramento?
Yeah, I mean, AB 1955 is just a clear one, right? That takes away the parental rights. Trump's already challenging that. Let's get rid of that. Last night, our board took action to ask for federal intervention in regards to that, and it passed 5-0. So hopefully we'll get more hands on deck to make sure that unconstitutional law is taken back. But I also want to mention when kids get into high school, right? I sit on our Baldy View ROP. I'm a commission member alongside 3 other districts. When a child goes into high school, we should already they should, first of all, already know how to read at grade level. We should not be doing damage control at that point. We've already failed them if they cannot read at grade level. But the reality is, I want to say it's less than 50% of California students can read at grade level. So we need to ensure that they're able to read by then, right? Put all the interventions in place, ensure that we're actually focusing on education. It doesn't take brain surgery to make sure that our kids can read, write, and do math. But with that said, when they get into high school, there's so much funding that could be put in place to help these children after they graduate that we're missing that opportunity. We're starting to implement that even more and more here in Chino Valley, but I want to take that statewide. Not all children are 4-year bound, right? But with that said, we already do a great job at putting kids into the 4-year system, but we also do a horrible job at keeping them there because they're not prepared. You see the graduation rates at a 4-year, right? They're horrific. And parents are spending a lot of money. Even these young students that don't have parent involvement with the being able to afford these things, they're now in a tremendous amount of debt at such a young age. But if we sit down with those kids in the very beginning and we say, hey, is there a pathway? Is there something we can help you with? We could set them on those pathways. We can give them the tools. Look, trade if they want to go into a trade, if they want to go into law enforcement or fire, whatever, or nursing, whatever it may be, we have those tools available. And I want to make sure statewide we put the funding where it's needed to ensure success after high school. That is a huge thing that we need to focus on that I think we're missing the boat on. And you could see, I mean, kids are growing up to a point in high school where they don't even know what they want to do, but they don't even have the tools. And that's heartbreaking. We are failing our kids even after high school. And we have the opportunity. We have the money. It's just being mismanaged.
Yeah, I agree with you on that for sure. When it comes to parental rights and the idea of transparency and parental involvement, what would you encourage parents with when it comes to those topics specifically?
Don't trust the system. You have great people in the education system. You have great teachers. You have great staff members, but don't trust. We've seen over and over. I mean, it breaks my heart and it makes me want to scream from the rooftops. You continuously see the sexual abuse even in the classrooms. Parents have to pay attention. Stop trusting your kids with these people. Look, I get it. Get involved. Even if it's just watching your board meeting and seeing the people that are involved in making these decisions. Most districts, not all, they do have a live stream and they also put them on YouTube. If they don't, encourage them to. Ask them to. Why are they hiding these things, right? You want to see what exactly they're doing in regards to your children. Ask questions. Be there for your child no matter what. I know that the system in California has been designed to make both family members, a mom and a father, working right now because we're all trying to just be able to put even eggs that are increasing at a daily rate on the table. But the fact is, our babies are in the hands of people who don't always have the best intent, Madison. So transparency to me is key. When you afford the parent the opportunity to be involved, that's where we see the best outcomes for our children. And that's where we're missing the boat here in California because our legislators have made it very clear they don't want to have parents involved. They think they're the parent. You see them pushing grants into things like community schools. They package it with a pretty bow, as, telling parents they want to take care of your whole child. It's not that they want to take care of, they want to pretty much put in and install into the child what they want them to know. They are teaching them their ideologies. They are making them dependent on the system, and that needs to stop. We need to give them the tools to be successful and independent.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking, everyone should get chickens, first of all. That would help with the egg crisis. But along the same lines, when it comes to the individuals that feel the government should raise your own children, they have critiqued you. They've said that you marginalize them, that you exclude them. What would you say to your critics who believe that the government should raise your children?
I absolutely love kids enough to stand in between them and our kids, because when it comes down to it, anybody can go to a Chino Valley Unified School Board meeting. Please go look last night. Those people getting up and screaming and yelling, they're not, from my point of view and what I've known, they're not even parents. These are radical groups that have been involved, that continue to put their time and effort. They are relentless at fighting to have the rights over your children. And that's where I tell parents, no, I'm sorry. Like, you can critique me all day long, but if I stand and we talked about this before, Madison, if we protect one child, we've done our job. And that's what we'll continue to do.
Yeah, I agree with you on that completely. So you've been with Chino Valley now for 5 years, is that correct?
2 years.
2 years.
3 years
right.
As the school board president, and prior I was just a mom frustrated at the school board meetings.
So what have you learned? What experience have you gained that gives you confidence, or at least gives you, the desire to follow through and run for such a huge position for our state?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. So I've pretty much, it was hurtful, but and actually kind of hurt our family in a way, but I stopped my small business during the COVID shutdown. I made this a full-time position. Even though it's not a job, I made it a full-time position to understand how it all works. How would I have any clear conscience on not involving myself on how it works? In pretty much, you're involved in everything. You're managing a business, right? Because a school district is a business. We make the biggest decisions. The superintendent, most people don't know, they report to the board, right? And when you have great superintendents that our hands are tied because of a board, that's the situation that I found out from coming from a mom to a school board member. It was that we have great staff. It's just they weren't able to do exactly what they want to do in regards to educating our kids. I started doing site visits. I started asking the superintendent, what is it that the board can support you that you have not historically had support in? What is it that you want to implement into every classroom, regardless of the relentless effort from the radical union activists and not the good teachers, right? And I started having those conversations. In fact, we have so many great teachers that support what we're doing, and they're excited that we're in this position, because even when it comes down to discipline, Madison, the state doesn't allow us to discipline children. So that creates chaos in the classroom, and it's unfair to our teachers because they're there for a reason. But with that said, I spent countless hours. I'm still spending countless hours on how it works, what we can support. And I found out our district, we have studies being done on us from Stanford. We have great studies being done from a lot of different organizations. And it's because we're allowing our superintendent and the experts in their field to do what they were designed to do and paid to do. And that excites me, because at the same token, you don't have that in all districts, but being in a position of a state superintendent of a public instruction, if I can implement that statewide, how beautiful would that be? And it doesn't take brain surgery to be that person to do that, right? You have all these people that report to the big money, the unions. I don't do that. I report to the community in which I was elected, and that's what I think at the state level I'm going to bring, obviously, with the support of parents, and I'm excited about our opportunities for our kids. So the first year, I'm just going to hit it hard, be as relentless as them, and we'll start to see our kids flourish.
And so going back to the current superintendent, I know he has termed out. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. I know it's kind of silly to even address him, but you're going to be going up against some other individuals, and we don't even need to name them because it doesn't matter for when you win. But what What would you say are your biggest challenges, your biggest obstacles? I know you mentioned the teachers union. What are your biggest challenges with the individuals that have announced their candidacy against you? And what will you do pushing forward? You have some time, right?
Yes.
Until the election actually happens. But what will you do in the meantime to continue to promote yourself, continue to spread the word? And what does that look like for Sonja Shaw and for her family?
Well, thank you for asking that. But here's the thing. They come with money. They come with a machine that was built to get them into these positions. You see here in California, most of the things that we stand on together, it doesn't even matter party line. This is a non-party partisan position. It's an 80-20 thing, right? Like 80% of everybody believes in what we believe in, but yet we don't go to the polls with it. So my biggest challenge is getting around California and spreading the message, letting them know what's happening, letting our homeschool moms and families know what's happening, because they may not even be aware California, Sacramento legislators right now are attacking homeschooling. So all while parents and private schools as well, they've been attacking private schools. So my thing is I need all hands on deck to be able to afford to get around California. I need, I need captains in each area to spread the message. This is a statewide seat. I don't have the big money coming behind me, but I think what is beautiful is I have parents, I have community members, I have grandparents. As long as we could spread the message, I think this is a winnable seat. It just is going to take all hands on deck, Madison. It cannot be Sonja Shaw's campaign. I was the voice of Chino Valley. I ran as the voice of Chino Valley, right? And we need to have a voice in Sacramento for the parents and community members that actually care. And I want to say those that don't have children, you need to get involved. These are people that are growing up in your communities. So that was my biggest conversation knocking door to door when I had, a retired person in front of me was, oh, I didn't have kids. I heard that often. I don't have kids. It doesn't pertain to me. Yes, it does. These people are growing up in your communities. And if they are being pushed through a system that just pushes radical ideologies in them, your beautiful state that we're all growing up and people are exiting out of is going to continue to be destroyed. Mm-hmm. And that's where I say, Madison, all hands on deck. I need everybody on deck. Again, we don't have the big money. I ask, if you have to give up a Starbucks, let's do it. That's the biggest, hardest thing for people like, normal people like us is asking for money. But the reality is we're going to need it, and we're going to need the support, and we're going to need the captains to take initiative in their own communities.
And I know you said that there's, people that say, oh, I don't have children. I don't really care about these issues that have to do with education, public education. And I agree with you. I think that was something when I ran that was an excuse, hey, I don't have kids, so this doesn't really pertain to me. So when it comes to the unification, you have stakeholders. You have stakeholders without kids, with kids, aunts and uncles. You have children involved. You have staff, teachers, administrators. You have parents. What can you do to unify both sides of the aisle, in a sense? What can you do to unify people with maybe more liberal ideas and people with more conservative ideas for public education?
Well, the most amazing part in our own community, we've already done a great job at doing that. We just need to help let it grow. And by that is bringing back a focus. Look, we can all agree to disagree pretty much that, well, actually, we can all agree that ideologies should be placed at the home, right? When you actually start putting them back into the home and not into our school system, I think that's where we can find common ground. When we all look at it, and if kids cannot read, we've obviously lost our focus. I think on both sides of the aisle, again, if we focus back on education and we agree to keep the ideologies on both sides outside, right? Our kids will be on a pathway for success. And that's where I say, look, Madison, people want to label me as, this, that, the other, Christian nationalist, whatever they want to label me as. The fact of the matter is I work with parents all day long that have no common ground with the same religion or the same beliefs as far as that. But we all have the same belief that we want to put kids on a successful pathway. And as long as we continue on that pathway, I think it's going to be a beautiful thing statewide. Of course, they'll try to divide us, but my focus is on educating our kids and giving them the best tools possible for after high school. If they don't agree with me, then we're obviously never going to agree with common sense. It needs to be pushed into the classroom, and common sense will prevail if we all can get on that same page.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. I heard this quote, or not quote really, but it was a meme that I think I read the other day, and it was so fascinating to me because it talked about, what if your child went to high school and was given a Bible and was baptized there at school, turned their life over to Jesus, and you at home were a practicing Satanist or atheist. How would you feel if your child was exposed to this religion that you didn't agree with? Would you be okay with that? And I think that's something similar to what I feel as a mom, as a conservative mom, is happening in our public schools on the opposite side, right? Where other ideologies are indoctrinating our children, and we don't really have a firm grasp or control over what our kids are exposed to if we're not, like you were saying, involved in their classrooms and involved on their campuses. And so when you win this superintendent position for public education in California, I know you kind of talked about hitting the ground running in your first year, but what would you say would be a successful platform response or successful platform result from your first year being the superintendent of public education in California?
Well, I think we have to look at historically, this has taken so many years for us to get here, right? So as much as I am going to get in there and hit the ground running, it's also turning the ship around, right? There's going to be a lot of things, just like in our own district. The first year, we've made a lot of bold stance. So I think that's the number one key, sending the message. We're not going to tolerate that here. We're going to focus on education and be relentless at pushing that. But you know what's great, Madison, is over the past couple of years, 3 years that I've been in this position, I've actually gotten letters. Obviously, they didn't put their names on it, but people from the Department of Ed, we know there's great people in there. They just want good leadership that allows them to do what they want to do, which is educate, right? So when I get in there, it's to send that message. We're not going to tolerate any more of this other nonsense. We're going to turn the ship around, and we're going to start focusing back on education and giving the tools statewide, using the money to give it statewide. I think with that said, if we continue to push that message in the first year, you're going to see some people jump the ship, and you're going to see some people want to come onto the ship. We've seen that there locally in our own district, and it was a blessing, right? It pretty much weeded themselves out. And I think with that said, after the first year is when you'll start to see the beautiful things happen. When we start giving the tools, we start giving the opportunities, we start helping our newer teachers, also giving back discipline opportunities to school districts, you're going to see a big change. We did that there in Chino. I could tell you right now, we were frowned upon by, the person in that position right now. When it comes to the dashboard on discipline, when we got in there, we said, if you do pretty much do the crime, you're going to do the time type of thing, right? You're going to be expelled or punished or suspended. The state doesn't want you to do those things. But we also put in place great systems into those programs. When they were put in those programs, we put money from the district's general funding to make sure that those students had the mentors that they needed to get back into, the day-to-day classroom. And that's where I think we're missing the opportunity again. We have gone to a point where, you saw a law being passed recently in the last year. Kids can literally start throwing things in a classroom, cussing and yelling, and you can't even discipline them in California. That's wrong. We need to change all that back. I think with those things said too, you have laws right now that force districts to put tampons in the boys' restroom. People don't even know that. Till this day, I still get messages, why is there a dispenser in there, right? That's all wasted money. That's all wasted money, all while our kids are failing at reading, writing, and math. That's where we're dumping our money into. It's those things that we need to focus and bring more attention back onto and put them back on the table. I think once we do that and we clear all of that stuff out, it's going to be easy. Our focus has been so far to the left and gone, and all the radical ideologies have been, the driver of this ship. Once you clear that out, it's going to be a good thing. It's just a matter of turning that ship around.
And I remember when I was visiting classrooms, when I was on the school board in Orange Unified, that I would visit classrooms of teachers that I could you can tell, I mean, that they were maybe of opposing views, opposing belief systems than I had. And the number one thing all of them said is, I don't have time in my day to teach literacy, to teach math, to teach history and science, because they're being forced to teach all these extras, these extra ideologies. And so I agree with you that those items, SEL, I learned that on the playground. You know, you don't tease kids. You don't. And so it's amazing to see, and sad to see, where our education system in California specifically has been focusing for the last couple of years. I have one more question and then we'll kind of wrap up. But my last question is, Sonja Shaw is just a fitness instructor. She's just a beauty queen and has a great smile. Why do you feel like you can run for school board, and why do you feel like you can be the next California Superintendent of Public Education?
I'm glad you asked, because I get that a lot. I get, oh, you're not qualified, you're not this, you're not that. Well, let me just kind of back up a little bit. We see some of the most successful people in the nation and in the world. Look, the reality is I support people who go to college, but I also support people who are entrepreneurs, who did other avenues, who are in the field, who are, a nurse, or who are construction workers. My husband's a construction worker. I don't ever tell one of our students, because you're not going down a 4-year pathway, that you're not worthy and you're not able to do something great in the world. So first off, with that said, again, some of our most successful people in the nation, they're on the same pathway that I was, right? This is a position where it's pretty much you're in charge. It's going to be your direction, and then everybody has to play out. So in our own district, we have experts, and then we have those that make the decisions that drive the experts to do what they do. This is the same thing, right? We have the success. Our district is not declining. And I've already kind of went over that. We've had clouded so much, right? We have forced down so much on our teachers. And let's be fair to the good teachers. We've given them so much that they have to put into the classroom as a whole in California. But as a district, we actually minimize that. And we said, here's the critical standards. Here's the critical things. This is what we want you to continuously push, because once you meet these, you're going to have that child succeed. And that's what we're going to do at the statewide. So to me, yes, bash me all you want, but at the same token, we're doing something great in Chino, and it doesn't take a polished career politician. It takes a polished career politician to continue on the pathway of destruction. And obviously with our school board, you see, we have parents, we have community members, we have retired police officers on our board. Our district is very successful, even in California, and we continue to climb that pathway, right? So for me, when they say that, I actually love that they say those things to me, because in the meanwhile, I'm giving the students the ability, regardless of their pathways and going to a college, we're telling them, hey, you could do great things in the world, and you're going to, right? And that's exactly what we're doing in our state levels. So yes, they could say I'm unqualified, but you know what? It took this unqualified, caring mother to stand up to Newsom and the rest of them. And look what we're doing in California. California, we're accomplishing main things. And we not only have the support of Chino, I have the support of tons of parents and community members all across California. That's exactly what we're going to do at the state level, and finally get our kids on the pathway to success.
I love that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to be the first to introduce our next Superintendent of Public Education, Sonja Shaw. Sonja, thank you for being a fighter and a mama bear, and the incredible inspiration that you've been for myself, and I know so many others. I'm so grateful for your time and for your sacrifice daily on the school board, and I'm just so impressed and appreciative of your willingness and your family's willingness to continue even on a bigger level. I'm so grateful. So thank you for protecting my kids and your kids and all the other children that are, going to go through the public school systems. It's just such an honor to call you my friend and to have this opportunity with you today.
And Madison, I do have to say something. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. 2 mothers in a very similar position. They tore you apart and you stood so strong, and look at you now. You didn't give up. I mean, they did everything. They went after you. Big money went after you. Unions went after you. I am so proud of you. And it's people like us that will continue to link arms and make the change that's needed for our children. I love you. I appreciate you. And I stand with you in this.
Thank you, Sonja. I want to thank our guest, Sonja Shaw, for being on our Say What podcast today. And by the way, you can also follow our podcasts on YouTube. It's called Say What for Protect Our Kids. We have social media, we have X, we have Facebook, and we have Instagram, as well as our website, pok.org. Go there, get equipped, find the information you need, get involved in your classrooms, and make sure that you are there to protect your children so that we can do the same. Thank you so much for being with us, and I look forward to seeing you next time.